Welcome back and hello if you are new. I hope that all of you guys are doing really well, and I have to say I have been waiting for this moment for such a long time because this is probably one of my most anticipated albums to be released this year. I know that you guys probably think I say that about every single album, but I promise this really is one of my most anticipated records. So on album number 5, I'm just going to get straight into it. Deafheaven have boldly gone where no one else will go before on Infinite Granite. So if you're not familiar with Deafheaven, they kind of combine this shoegaze with black metal. So it shouldn't come as a surprise then that Deafheaven are still pushing this convention forward and have created an album which is almost exclusively without harsh vocals. Infinite Granite is, from what I've heard, about life being on hold. So I can only imagine that that would have come from the pandemic. So as I mentioned, Infinite Granite is without harsh vocals for a large amount of the album. But the great thing about that is that when the harsh vocals do come in, it really does enhance that sense of euphoria. So on Great Massive Colour, for example, you've got the euphoric crescendo that we're really used to. But then on Villain, it's more of a pain and release kind of idea. And then we get to the final track, which is Mombasa, which for me is the perfect climax to the album. And I think that given the fact that we are kind of given one more kind of harsh vocal and probably the most that we get in the album, it really does kind of cap it off really nicely. Now, obviously the clean vocals allow for, melodies and sections of the songs to really get more ingrained, and particularly Villain, I think, is a great example of that. And George Clark proves that he's not necessarily just a black metal one-trick pony. There were hints of this on Ordinary Corrupt Human Love, but here I feel like he's got this great compromise between like Robert Smith meets Billy Corgan, and it's a very distinctive style, I think. I also think that where it comes to songwriting, the more straightforward approach of verse, chorus, verse, is actually quite adventurous for the band. And of course, it wouldn't be a Deafheaven album without the sense of atmosphere, and that's pretty much prevalent the entire way through. The second that Shellstar comes in, you've got that sort of like, and even more ideas are being incorporated. So you've got the use of synthesizers and electronics, and Neptune Raining Diamonds, for me, is kind of this retro futurist song where you could imagine, like something like Sunshine, for example, where the protagonist has sort of accepted his death and, sort of like just in that stasis of bliss before he dies. There are different tropes that kind of remind you of what Deafheaven have. So I think particularly on the drums, they're not necessarily as insane as they have, been in the past with blasts and really fast sections, but they have that sense of, I don't know, like that feeling, that body. So when it comes to the sort of creature comforts of Deafheaven, they're still there. The drums still hit nice and hard. They've got that sense of energy. It's just a little bit more refined. And personally, I think that Lament for Wasps also has that sort of crescendo whirling lead guitar that we've come to know from Deafheaven as well. And in terms of the guitar, it's not necessarily strictly metal, it's more kind of focusing on the idea of dynamics, different effects pedals. You've got delay, chorus, flange, anything you could really think of on here. But I have to say the most sort of Deafheaven track would probably have to be Mombasa. But I like the fact that they make you wait right until the end to hear that sort of sense of familiarity, because you have to go through the journey. You could argue that the band took a risk with Infinite Granite, right? But haven't they always? Deafheaven have always been a very polarizing band, and that's what I think is so great. And it reminds me of Opeth with Heritage. Never content to rest on their laurels, this is what makes Deafheaven one of my favourite contemporary metal bands, and one of the reasons I think they are pushing the genre forward. So I hope you guys enjoyed this album review. If you did, it'd be great if you could hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know what you think in the comments. Also, just wanted to say thank you ever so much for all the coffee supporters. You can also pick up this album on August 20th via Sargent House. Other than that, that's it from me, and I will see you very, very soon for another album review. Take care, my friends.